Hello everyone, this is going to be a different type of video today. This is going to be the story of my life. This is something that a lot of people have been asking about, kind of who I am, how I've learned what I've learned, whether or not I'm AWS certified for whatever reason, people care about that. But yeah, this is just going to be me telling you straight off the cuff, kind of what I went through, how I came to know what I know, and just some of the stuff that I kind of learned as I grew up. And, hopefully it'll inspire some of you, show you that, you can come from very little and do pretty well for yourself. So here it goes. There's going to be basically no editing or very, very minimal editing. Hope nothing goes wrong with the video, but let's just start it out. So first of all, who am I? I've deliberately left this part out in all of my videos. I've never told you who I am, where I work, what I do, none of that stuff. And so here we go. So my name is Daniel Galati. I'm a senior software engineer and I work for Amazon. I've been at that company for 5.5 years. Went through some wild rides, learned an enormous amount. I'm still working there actually. And I'm constantly learning while I'm there. I'm actually trying out a slightly different role now. I'm trying out a people management role just to see if I like that. And so far, so good, but you never know what'll happen in the future. But in terms of, I guess, my life story, let's back up a little bit. That's where I am right now. But let's back up a little bit to talk about how I went from where I am now, or where I was rather, to where I am now. So I guess the most appropriate place to start is probably growing up in high school. So, I was an average guy in high school, pretty smart, just naturally. I didn't really have to put in a lot of effort in school. I did fairly well with A's, but I didn't really try. I didn't do a lot of the work. Completely honest, looking back on myself, I probably should have put in a lot more effort. And, my parents had good reason to be mad at me for spending as much time as I did on computers as opposed to doing homework. But that's neither here nor there. But anyways, high school was, good. I had a good time. Slightly quieter guy, a little bit nerdy. I played a lot of video games at the time. I was really, really interested in computers. Ever since I was a young kid, I got drawn to computers. I remember when I was 6 or 7 years old, my dad brought home this computer. I don't even know what it was. It was orange text. I can't even remember what type of machine it was. I just remember playing a game. There was kind of a spaceship that you had to fly, and it's kind of like Space Invaders at the time, but a very primitive version of that. But I was always drawn to computers. I loved computers. I could spend hours and hours and hours. Not in the same capacity as I can today, but I was completely obsessed. So throughout high school, I eventually convinced my parents to get me my own computer, where I spent a ridiculous amount of time on, which very much so distracted me from my studies. But after high school, I decided, my parents were very much from an education-oriented background, and they wanted me to go to university. So like a naive little 18-year-old, I followed that advice. I'm like, what makes sense here? Probably makes sense to get an education, to get a degree in something, get a good job, and see what happens. Looking back on it, I was completely unprepared. I did not know what I wanted to do in my life. I was just going through the motions just to make my parents happy at the time. And so I wasted a lot of time just fumbling around in post-secondary and just not spending my time efficiently. So what ended up happening was that I just applied for some program. It was, I can't even remember what it was, but it was some kind of business program. And I ended up getting in, that wasn't a problem. But when I got there, I was just so disinterested in what I was learning about. It was not useful. It was just drudge work to go through. And I was completely demotivated, not wanting to do that. So I thought to myself, what do I want to do in my life? Do I want to keep on going down this academic path? And these were some very dark moments. Just thinking should I go into the trade? Should I be a manual laborer? Should I, completely rethink what I want to do and move out west to the oil fields in Canada and work on an oil rig? Basically the door was open. I was thinking about everything at this time. And luckily I didn't do anything too drastic. I ended up deciding that, I like computers. I like video games. And so why not try out a computer science degree? So I went and I tried this. I switched over. I switched programs to a computer science degree. I did 1 year there, and then 1.5 years actually. The thing was that frustrated me about this was that maybe it was just this particular school, but it was a really large school in Canada that you didn't really ever feel like the professors cared. It was really hard to get help when you needed it. So that was one problem. The second problem was that the type of work that you do in that program for the first year is all just non-computer science stuff. It's all like maths and sciences. I think I took like one course, maybe two, in my first year at computer science at this particular university, and only 2 courses were in like programming. That's it. So I was completely demotivated by this. I had thought about sticking it through for a while, but after about 1.5 years, what happened was that my school went through a general strike. And the strike meant that like these teachers weren't teaching. They basically were on complete strike. So all the classes shut down for like 6 months. The whole curriculum got screwed up. At this time, I was a little bit hand wavy in terms of like, do I want to stay here? Do I want to try something different? Like, I don't know what I want to do with my life. So I'm like, this isn't going the way I thought it would go. And I decided to switch programs again. So this time I switched to a completely different school. I had it with this school and I was like, you know what, let's do something different. So I switched to another school and I did this is for an undergrad degree in geographic information systems. And I was able to like carry forward a lot of the credits that I had at my old school. So it was a pretty smooth transition. And there at this school, it was much smaller. It was still a university, but the class sizes were much smaller. The professors were very much more hands-on. And I honestly like blossomed here. I ended up doing like really well academically, met a lot of great people, made like some lifelong friends that I still have right now. And, it ended up working really, really well. So up until this point, while I was in this new program, I was like all hands on deck on this new thing that I was learning, which was geographic information systems. So it was an emerging field. We did some interesting stuff with the tools that existed out there in terms of, where to locate things and spatial algorithms and that kind of stuff. I thought I was done with computer science and programming. I thought I would never see that stuff again. And lo and behold, one day in my third year, I think it was third year or fourth year in that program, there was a introduction to programming course. And I was like, yes, this is good because I already know how to program pretty well from, my first 2 years at my other school in computer science. I'm like, this is an easy A. So I'm like, okay, let's take this course. So I ended up getting into the course and it was very, very different than my previous school. It was very practical. The things that we were working on, we learned Python early on there and we were doing things that were actually useful. So I think the first app or the first program that or assignment rather, that the professor there made us do was we had to scrape location data from, they call it the Yellow Pages in Canada, but it's like basically, like a directory of stores by category, right? So we had to pick a theme, so like pizza store or whatever, and scrape this website, like parse out all the HTML content, pull out all the values. We got the geo coordinates for them, and then we mapped them within this mapping library that we were using. And I was like, this is super cool. Like this is actually practical. And obviously I was pretty good at it because I already had like a head start over everyone else. So like I was adding new features to this stuff and like helping other people out as well. And it just reinvigorated my interest in programming and computer science. So that was going on in the back of my head. I'm like, this is like a potential. Like I wasn't like, I'm going to switch careers at this point. But I was like, this is something that definitely is in some way going to be part of my future. So anyways, pause that thought. So I continued on university. I finished that degree, ended up getting into a master's program. It was like a 1.5 year master's program, like full ride scholarship. I decided it would be stupid for me not to do this because like it was basically free. I actually made money going to university and doing my master's degree. So, it all definitely worked out. But after that, I did actually as part of my master's degree, I did an internship. And it's at a company called Blue Dot. And the website is bluedot.global. You can go look them up right now. And what this company does is that they are a kind of like a big data analysis company or analytic company that tries to predict the spread of infectious diseases. Now, as you can imagine, right now, this is like a very hot topic. And this company has been all over the news. They're like working with the government of California to like help with threat modeling. And like they're basically being used all over the place. Maybe I should have stayed there. I don't know. But, you know, I had my own reasons. Anyway, so I did an internship there. And the first thing that I did there was data engineering. And this is a very natural transition from what I was working on in my undergrad, because a lot of GIS is not just like using the tools, but processing large volumes of data like satellite imagery, which is raster data and vector data, and like grouping it into bins and overlaying it with other layers, and then figuring out patterns, figuring out like where things could spread to, that kind of stuff. These different types of spatial algorithms that you had to apply to solve particular problems. So that was like my first little foray into like programming at an enterprise level, and it was all in data engineering. So at this company, I was basically responsible for ingesting these volumes of data, producing these layers that would be integrated on top of a web application that we created. And this web application is basically used to, like you can dynamically add different layers. You can see where airplane travel is, where it's going, where it's coming from. So if there's like a disease outbreak in a particular place, you can use this tool as a kind of decision support tool to say, well, there's a disease outbreak here. This has all these flights going to all these other locations at these times. We should set up like, you know, quarantine locations or checkpoints to make sure that people coming in off these flights don't have this sickness. So that was kind of what I was contributing to overall. So over time, while I was there was like an opportunity to start working on the front end of this application. And they used like some library that's called Kendo. I don't even think anyone knows about that anymore. Was it Kendo? I think it was. Maybe Backbone. That name is like ringing a bell right now. One or the other. I can't remember which one it was. But this is like years ago in the web development world. This is like, if you just got into web development, you probably never even heard of this stuff. This is like when we were still using jQuery for everything. So that's what the ecosystem was like. So I started doing this front end stuff. I'm like, oh, this is cool. Like, I love making stuff. You can see it on this web app. Like, there's all this cool stuff that I'm doing. Like, this is awesome. And I'm getting great feedback from my customers that are using this tool on a day-to-day basis. Enjoying it a lot. Learned a super amount just by, doing my own little research and learning on my own, and some great guys that I worked alongside. So after that, I started naturally getting interested, like, where does the data come from, right? That's the next question when you're a front-end developer. So I started like looking into the back end, and expressed to my boss at the time, like, I want to see how this whole picture works, kind of thing, right? So started getting into the back end, working on APIs that were interacting with like a SQL database at the time, and started learning a lot about that. They didn't have some very basic things at the time. Now I'm looking at this in retrospect, and I'm like, wow, they needed to make a lot of changes to make that like production ready. But anyways, it was what it was, and I was learning a lot. But I just, I didn't get to really have someone to teach me the right way of doing things, if that makes sense. It was just, there was no code reviews. So it was just like me learning and applying things, and me thinking to myself, like, am I doing this right? No one was telling me any different. Like, I wasn't getting comments from anyone. I didn't really have many people to talk to that were at that introductory level like I was at the time. And I still remember like the catalyst of me wanting to like look for a job elsewhere. And the precise moment was one year. I thought I was doing really well at this company, and I don't think it's debatable. Like, I was doing really well at that company. I was contributing a lot and like really helping them out. So anyways, one year, I guess the company had like some kind of financial trouble, and they couldn't give us annual raises. And so like I was a young guy, and I wasn't getting paid too much while I was there. So I was like, if they're not going to give me a raise, then the demand for this field is hot right now. Like, I need to look elsewhere. So I still remember like that day, my boss told me like, Daniel, I'm sorry, but we can't do anything for you this year. I was like, you know what, that's fine. That day I went home, I put together my resume, and I started like banging out applications and studying for programming tests. And so there was a lot of work that went into just creating your resume and sending it out in addition to all the studying. And so back to like how I got to Amazon now. So when I didn't actually apply to Amazon like with my resume, I remember distinctly this moment where I stumbled across like one of those recruiter posting things on LinkedIn. And it was like, job for Amazon, come build the next big thing, whatever those advertisements say. And I was like, okay, like, this looks cool. Like, why not? Right. Like I'm never going to get in here. This is like, it's a waste of time, but like you can apply with a button. It's like apply with LinkedIn. And I'm pretty sure how that button works is that it scrapes your like user profile information and sends it off somewhere into like a black hole. And some recruiter gets it and like, sifts through the junk to see what's, potentially useful and what's garbage. But anyways, I clicked that button. I totally forgot about it. I wasn't even thinking about that. And at the back of my mind, I was like, I'm never going to get this job anyways. Like, who cares? So I don't know how long it was after that. It must have been like 2 to 3 weeks later. I ended up getting like a phone call on my phone. And it said like Amazon. I'm like, what the hell? Like, did I order something and they're having trouble delivering it? And it ended up being this recruiter that saw my application. And she was like, hey, Daniel, I saw your application. Like, I just want to talk to you about like your experience and your role and like make sure you're still interested. And I'm like, I'm on the other side of this phone call. I'm like, holy shit. Like, this is, interesting. Like, I'm excited. I'm nervous. I'm scared. Like, all this stuff is going on in my head. And I think I was like stuttering with my words at some point. But anyway, she was asking me all this stuff. And at the end of the call, she was like, can you send me like a real resume? Like your actual one, not like the LinkedIn one. I'm like, yes, I am so sorry. So I ended up like, rehashing my resume, like making it even better, like to the quality bar of like the best I can do, basically. Cause like you're applying for one of the biggest companies in the world. I wanted to make sure it was as good as it can be. And so that got the ball rolling. And if you don't know about the Amazon interview process, it's very similar to any of the FANG companies. It is long and it is intense. The first step after that first step after the HR is a hiring manager will contact you. That they ask you some technical questions, not coding usually, but they'll just kind of talk to you about your experience with data, see if you're a good fit for the role, like your general programming background, what your interests are, if you're like a learner or if you're just kind of a follower or if you're a leader. So there's a bunch of different things that they're vetting out at that point. If they then after that, there's an on-site. So if you get through those first two steps, there's an on-site interview. And so after the hiring manager contacted me, like everything went super well there. I was like pretty well prepared. I had a destination wedding for a friend, but I ended up finding out that the on-site that they were going to fly me down to Seattle for was like 3 days after I got back from that destination wedding. And that was like a 2-week trip I was taking to like, I don't know, St. Martin, I think, down south, sunny destination. Anyways, I still remember like I was studying like crazy for this at the time, going through all my algorithms, doing like HackerRank problems, tree questions, graph questions, string manipulation, recursion, all like the whole gamut of algorithms and data structures. And like, keep in mind that for me, I did get exposure to a lot of these things in my computer science degree. Like I did take data structures and algorithms course on like concurrency and operating systems and stuff. But I didn't really try all that hard while I was there. So like I was super, super rusty at this stuff and I had to kind of relearn things from scratch basically. And there were some things that I just never even saw that I realized I needed to know about. And I had to go and learn about them, like pathfinding algorithms and stuff. I didn't really have any classes on that at the time. Anyways, so I still remember I was like on the beach in St. Martin, and I had this like binder of stuff that I was reading, and I was like programming with pen and paper. Like I didn't have my computer with me at the time. And I was programming with pen and paper on the beach of St. Martin, sipping a martini, or whatever that drink was. Like it was a great time, but like I was super stressed, obviously, because you're studying while on vacation for something that could potentially change your life. So here I am, like studying for all this stuff, and the trip was great, by the way. Highly recommend St. Martin. I don't know about right now, but it was great, like 7 years ago or whenever it was. But anyways, Ended up when I got back, I did the onsite, and the onsite involves, if you don't know about the Amazon interview process, it's like you talk to 4 or 5 different people in the course of one day, and it's about an hour each. They ask you intense like data structure questions, algorithms questions, all types of questions. And actually, the role I was applying for, since I had worked for the previous company, done a lot of front end stuff. It was for a role that was focused on front end. The title was web development engineer, and so I had to do a lot of prep for that too. And it made sense because like a lot of the experience I had was in that domain. So I guess the recruiter thought it would be a good fit. But the interview bar is literally exactly the same for a software developer and web developer. It's just one is a little bit more focused, like has more questions on like JavaScript stuff, things that you should know about front end. But anyways, they flew me out there, put me in a hotel, paid for everything. I didn't pay a dime. It was an amazing experience. And I remember going, I think I did really well, except for one question with one interviewer. And this was the most important interviewer. It was the person that like had the ability to like veto the decision. And I just got stumped on this question. And I still remember the question. I don't know why I got stumped on this question. It was like to detect cycles in some data structure. It was either... no, it wasn't a linked list. I can't remember what it was. Like I had to detect cycles in something. So I got stuck on this question. Like I put some primitive solution that was like brute force, but I couldn't get the good one, the optimal one. So I was like, I don't know if I'm going to get this. Ended up going home and ended up getting a call like 2 weeks later that congratulations, like you got the job. And here I am. I'm from Toronto. I had a girlfriend here, we were serious at the time. And like, I got this call and it was like the most bittersweet moment of my life. I was like, I didn't know how to react because I was like so happy, but so sad at the same time, because I knew that, getting a little teary eyed here, but I knew that like I had to take it, right? Like I would be stupid not to. Like it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. Like you can go work for one of the biggest companies in the world, solving some of the hardest problems that exist out there. But on the other hand, I have my family here. I have my girlfriend here. My girlfriend's attached to her family. I don't want to leave her, right? And we had a trajectory planned out, like that we were gonna get married, have kids, all that stuff. And so it was the hardest time. But like at the end of the day, I had to like do what was best for myself, and I decided to take the role. Take the position, which was in Seattle, by the way. It wasn't in Toronto. So like, had to go from East Coast to West Coast. So I ended up working there or flying over there and working there. So I've been in a lot of different teams there. Like Amazon is a great place to work, I think, by the way. So if you hear a lot of things in the press and whatever, but I think it's fantastic. Learned an incredible amount. Like just thinking about the types of problems I've faced, the experience I've gotten, the people I've worked with, and the knowledge that I've acquired and grown, it's absolutely incredible. And I feel like if I would have stayed home and not done this, it would have been a huge mistake. So I'm so glad that I ended up doing it. So I ended up switching back, going back to Toronto after 2 years in Seattle. And Toronto's where I'm originally from. And, I still work here at Amazon. But I just report to the Toronto office, and I'm in the same org. So that's a little bit about like my work experience and stuff. And that's how I know all of this AWS stuff, right? Because like I'm working with it like literally every day for 5+ years. By the way, I never got any of my certifications. I have zero certifications in AWS, but I don't care because I don't need them, because I've already solved all the hard problems. I know how the things work. Right? So this just goes to show you, if you have like 1 million certifications, good for you, but it doesn't mean that you know how things work, right? I don't mean to sound like conceited or arrogant in any way. I'm just telling you that certifications will only get you so far. Experience is what really matters at the end of the day. Although like there is quite a bit of value of doing these certifications. I'm not going to lie. So don't take it like you shouldn't do any certifications. I just prefer to do things on my own and learn on my own. So that's the way I did it, and it seemed to work out. So I guess like the lesson there is that, you don't necessarily need to always have a formal education in something to get pretty far. I think the world has really changed in the past, I want to say like 10, 15 years. Like in the past, you really needed a formal education. You definitely needed a degree in what you were applying for. And if you didn't have that degree, you just weren't going to get an interview. End of story, right? Now with like internet and YouTube, especially YouTube, I love YouTube. Obviously, I'm here, right? I love YouTube for learning, and like you can just learn anything you want right now. The only limiting factor is you. Like you are the limiting factor here. You can become anything, right? There's MIT Open Course, there's YouTube, there's articles, there's so many resources, structured learning that you can take from some of the best universities, the best professors in the world where you can learn from. All you have to do is commit yourself and apply yourself to it. I took a lot of these courses personally because I had to catch up, right? I only did a year and a half of computer science. I had to learn all the other stuff too, right? So, that's something that I can personally attest to. And so going back now, that's just kind of my pep talk for staying motivated and keeping on learning. But back to this channel, like how did this channel start? Why did I do this? So there was a moment where I watched a video once by, everyone knows Tech Lead, right? If you don't know Tech Lead, go YouTube Tech Lead. He's like a very, very popular YouTuber. And he was talking about like the change in the like app landscape or like just the, actually, what was that video about? It was about the next big thing. That's what it was. The next big thing in tech. And he was talking about like in the past when apps came out, like he was building apps, he made a lot of money, but people stopped caring about apps. It became more about like websites, right? Or content creation on YouTube. For all the apps that existed back in the day for like repairing a car, right? Car repair app, for example. Now there's just YouTube content on that stuff. No one downloads apps anymore. And the apps that they do download are like probably like you can name 5 that you use every day or, that you have on your phone at least. Other ones are just like, they're filtered through the noise. You never even see them or hear about them unless they like giving away something with a promotion or something. So anyways, I saw this video and I think I actually linked it in one of the community posts that I made. Like it was a decisive moment for me. So you can go and watch it. And I was like, yes, YouTube is the thing to do. So then it became the question of, what do I want to make my YouTube video on or my YouTube channel on? And this is funny. So at the time I wanted to do something, and I'm really into houseplants. If you look behind me, you can see like 3 different houseplants. You can see this massive ivy plant that's like taking over my thing. And over here, the one on the floor there, that one right there. I don't know, you can kind of see it. That's my Monstera plants. My house is filled with houseplants. My wife hates it, by the way. Anyways, so I was like, okay, I like houseplants. I'm learning a lot about houseplants, and I had some rare ones too. And like, there's people that have popular houseplant YouTube channels. I'm like, okay, let's do this. And so I think I still have that YouTube channel up. It's called A Man and His Plants. Go watch it. Like, go watch my first videos. It's absolutely embarrassing. So that was my first little foray. So what I realized was that, man, it's really hard to create videos on houseplants. Like, I only have so many in my house. What am I going to do? Like, make a video on like every time I buy a plant? I'm going to have like a bajillion plants in my house. This is not scalable, right? And so at the same time at work, like similar time span, I was talking to a friend of mine at work, and we were saying about like the AWS documentation. Like we were trying to set up something specific. I think it was like cross account SNS to SQS. And while we were doing it, it was like, man, the documentation sucks. Like it's so hard to figure out how to do things, right? Like not that it sucks per se, but there's just so much information that AWS throws at you. Like you don't know what to pay attention to. And so I couldn't figure out, like, do I need to actually care about 90% of the things that is in this like 100-page long PDF file, or like, can I skip like 80% of it, like just to do what I want, right? So I'm like, this is it. Like there's only so many AWS channels that were out there. And I felt like I looked through a lot of them, like, the content's not very good. Like it was okay, but it wasn't like anything to brag about. Not saying that I was much better when I started, by the way. And so I was like, okay, let's try this out. And so that's how this channel started, because I was upset with the documentation on AWS in general. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to help people set up things that are common. And originally I was thinking that I was going to post all the videos on the internal Amazon systems just to help my coworkers, right? So, but then I'm like, let's just do this on YouTube, because then everyone could benefit. And then I can, apply this to my goal, which was to create a YouTube channel in the first place. So that's what I did, right? So started by doing a video every week. My video sucked in the beginning. Go watch my first video. It's like absolutely embarrassing. I think I'm just like stumbling through half of it. Nothing was prepared. I was just kind of walking through the console. It's pretty funny. Camera sucked, audio sucked, everything sucked. But you know what? You get better with every video that comes. So I was making a video a week, and I kind of had a lucky break because Jeff Barr, who is like an AWS evangelist at AWS, he didn't know I work for Amazon, and very few people at Amazon know that I have a YouTube channel. But anyways, he saw one of the videos I did on step functions. It was a step function overview video. And he saw that on Twitter or like the AWS subreddit or something. And he tweeted it. And this guy has like 100,000 followers on Twitter. So it immediately launched my channel off the ground. And if you know anything about YouTube, the hardest part is just getting off the ground and getting like, 100, 200 people looking at your stuff, or like 200 subscribers. Once you get that amount, like it's a snowball effect. You'll just constantly grow over time as long as you're consistent. So I got this lucky break, and that kind of launched me to like 200 or 300 subscribers. So from there onward, it was a very steady growth pattern from where I am today. And this is like continued to happen, right? And I'm more and more invested in YouTube now. And what I think I've learned about all of this is how much I love to help people. I've always loved to help people. At work, I get a lot of satisfaction by just dropping what I'm doing. Someone is struggling. I can see the glare in their eyes and the sadness on their face. And just if I'm able to help someone, I'll just get in there, help them out, and not just show them how to do something, but teach the person. This is an important attribute, by the way. Something that separates a newer, I don't even think this applies to developers explicitly, but it applies to anyone really. There's the best way to teach someone is not to tell the person the answer, but it is to ask leading questions that make that person figure out the answer. You want to make them, you want to make them self-sufficient. You don't want to, give a hungry person a fish. You want to teach him how to fish, right? There's some old phrase like that. So that's, I didn't always do that. In the beginning, I would just help people out, but I learned over time. I had a great manager that gave me this feedback one day, like, I need you to create more of you, basically. And so the way to do that is by asking these people these leading questions and sharing my thought process, how I went through like these difficult debugging scenarios, like very, very complicated distributed system, multi-threading environments where I had to like figure out and track like the event history of a problem that we were trying to solve, and just teaching people how to do that and what I was thinking at the time. And so I discovered through all of this and through my work that I just absolutely love teaching people and helping people. And like YouTube is my creative outlet to do that. And like it's certainly come a long way from 0 to, I think I have like 53,000 subscribers now and like almost 4 million views or something like that. But the satisfaction I've gotten from this channel and all the benefits are enormous. Like all you people that are watching, like hats off to you if you're still watching at this point. But like the kind and loving comments and supportive comments I get from people all the time, like truly make my day. And thank you, all of you, for being so supportive and, giving me your kindest words, throughout all the videos I've posted. And I guess before I go, I just want to like encourage some of you to maybe try out something like this for yourself, because YouTube isn't just an opportunity to like create a business or maybe make a little bit of money on the side if you want to go that route. But it's really something that has so many great side effects that I cannot overstate how useful creating a YouTube channel, especially in tech, which is something I'm interested in, has been. Not only have I have to remember, I have to constantly be learning, right? Outside of what I'm working on at work. Like I have to be learning about new stuff all the time so I can make videos for all you fine people, right? So I'm constantly researching every day. I have a notebook of like all the ideas for videos and I'm constantly reading and learning about stuff. So I'm improving myself as an individual, constantly learning new things, right? I'm improving my communication skills, right? I'm to articulate things and explain complicated things in a way that anyone can understand. That is an enormously valuable skill, probably the most valuable skill besides like the technical skills you need to have to get to do the job. Communication cannot be understated. And this opportunity to talk to all of you people over the past 2 years has flexed those muscles. And if you're not good at it, don't worry, because I wasn't really good at it at first. I was okay, but as you can see, like I can talk off my tongue like pretty easily now, right? I was never always like this. I wasn't able to explain complicated things easily in, just a couple minutes of reading a paragraph, but it's practice and it's deliberate practice. And if I can do it, you can do it. And if I can not have a very traditional kind of, what do I want to say, like a traditional path to working where I work and accomplish what I've accomplished, then, so can you. And really the limiting factor is just yourself, your ambition, your commitment to hard work, and your commitment to sticking to it. So I think I'm going to leave it at that. And again, thank you all for all your support. You can add me on LinkedIn. You can reach out to me if you want. But now you all know who I am. I hope I didn't get in trouble. Hope I didn't cause any problems, but that's what it is. And now you have an idea of where I've been and where I am now. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.